Good day, traders. This is Rich with BinaryOptionTrading.com, and it's 12:15 on August 28th, 2012. Unfortunately, there was no trade of the day today due to some personal reasons and some minor emergencies I had to take care of this morning. And I don't like trading this late, although I probably could find one. I don't want to push it because today is one of those days where markets are coming off a soft day yesterday and trying to push today a little bit more, and I'm just not too comfortable making a trade today. So I'm going to sit back, sit on my hands, and what I'm going to do is do a little chart overview of what did happen this morning and what's happening now. Pretty interesting stuff based on yesterday's. If we remember, we stayed between support 1 and resistance 1 and the pivot, and the range was really small. And I've talked about summer trading and how I don't really look at it too much, but sometimes when it does play, you wonder if it really is summer trading doldrums. And this was one of those cases where it looked like it was. And today, the range, you can see here on the screen that 1.2506 is pivot, and resistance 3 is 1.2552. So we're talking under 50 pips to resistance 3. So we're talking about a narrow daily range for the Euro USD. Usually we see a little bit, definitely more between pivot and resistance 3, usually 70 or 80 pips. In this case, we saw, not very much. However, looking at this chart, there were some nice setups, and these are the setups I want to talk about. I'm going to talk about extended candles, extended moves in this video because it's something I've been doing a lot lately. And although, again, the range wasn't as high and probably didn't hold as much water as it normally would, this particular trade setups, the trade setups in this video did work out really well, and you still played them like you saw them. So here we go. We'll go through the Euro USD 1-minute chart. Now the times on here are server times where this broker is located, so it's totally different. I'm actually, let's see, it's 1913 on the so that's 7:13 GMT, I think it is. I'm not exactly sure. And it's actually 12:20 here, so I'm going to go back to where I saw the trade set up. Let's see if I can get there. Okay, so here we go. So we had this leg up from pivot, hit support or resistance 1, hit resistance 2, and then here's our resistance 3. And this is the first extended move above resistance 3. Now, when I talk about extended move, I don't talk about it just poking its head out, like a turtle. I want to see a little extended move like this, and you can see how price action took it past resistance 3 and held at this moment, and then pulled back down, tried again, lower high, and failed completely, which is great. Those are the types of trades I like the best: extended moves past resistance 3, or the other way around, support 3. And again, remember, take it with a grain of salt based on price action from yesterday, creating a smaller R1, R2, and R3. So this is R1, this is R2, and this light green one's R3. Price then again pushed towards resistance 3, looked to extend again, and it failed again and moved back down, this time all the way to resistance 2. Now the cool thing about the resistance 2, it becomes support, right? Old resistance becomes support. So price came down to this, touched it, and look what happened. It held pretty nicely and moved back up. Now as binary options traders, we don't need it to move that much, correct? In this case, just poked through a little bit and then moved up just enough to give us a winner. It did come back down again, didn't touch, not really tradable here. But if you're like taking 60-second binary options or a shorter time frame, this is something you might want to consider looking at. I like to see at least touch. Sometimes if price is in certain locations, I don't need it to touch. These are all things you learn from years of chart watching. With extended candles, you definitely want it to touch, if not definitely get through that line and then come back in to that line and consolidate. So as price moved back up, it kind of hit the mid of this range. So obviously we're forming a channel here from support or resistance 2 to resistance 3. This channel is forming, and you can see how price kind of consolidated in the middle for a little while, and then we had a nice jumper candle to the north side, which extended again. So it extended past resistance 3 and look to our left. What are we talking about? Always look to your left. Boom. Boom. Looks very familiar. We got a solid wick and a fail. Okay? Price came back down, and look where it stopped. It stopped at this particular consolidation range. Now, it's not always going to fit to a T exactly, this high or this low, but it fit actually in this case. Let's look at the crosshair. Pretty much in the middle. So that's nice. That's something to look at in the future. But if you notice, look where my crosshair is. I'm sorry, where the line. Look how I go across now. What do we have here? Ooh, a little bit of support from over here too. So this is definitely in the middle of the range. You got these high wicks too forming in there. So you look back and you can kind of see where there's areas that you can trade all the way across. And price came down here, moved up. Look, it extended again. Not a lot, but it still extended and then failed again. So it moved back down to resistance 2, which is support. Didn't quite hit it again, but did make a higher low than over here and over here. So that's something you need to consider. So maybe there's a change in the guard. You don't necessarily want to trade it like a ping pong ball, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. We've hit it a few times. Will it happen again? It's not always going to work. That's without saying. But when you have good solid setups, you should consider them as tradable setups. So let's go through the chart a little bit for the next, 3 hours. See what happened. Okay, so here's the price action. Just like I said, we had that low here, higher low, and another higher low, and we keep attacking this resistance 3 area. So we attacked it once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. You usually have to say to yourself, wow, I don't know if this thing's really got the momentum to stop again. Let's just see if it keeps going. So this time it cranked and really extended. And this was the 5th time. Is something you don't necessarily want to trade, but you can keep that in the back of your mind that it did not work, but it was the 5th time that it went up that level. So here we go. Let's keep the chart going. Price, look what happened. Price in a 1-minute candle. These are 1-minute candles, by the way. Came down, and look, it went right through resistance 3, which is now a support, right? But look what happened. 1 candle later, jumped again and jumped back up. So this area became support, and look how it's holding. We'll continue moving forward and see what happens. Does this look familiar from over here? Look at this. Look at this. It came back down. It's almost forming a new channel above the high of resistance 3. So now we're forming a new channel here, a consolidation in the middle, and it's popping back up. So let's see what happens. Oh, price moved up once again and jumped just past this, so it almost created a new high, and this is definitely where you could have taken a put option, because you had this high here that didn't even have a chance of holding, and it tried it again, formed a nice wick, and dropped like a rock back down to the channel, center of the channel. And let's see how things go from here. Just consolidation, 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 a little choppiness, nothing crazy, and that's about it so far. So we're staying in the middle of the new range. So our new range is resistance 3 is the low, this area is the high, and this junky mess right where the price is now, which is kind of choppy, is the middle of this new range. So we had a range back a few hours prior, and now we have a new range right after that. So this kind of gives you a little breakdown. I know this might be a little bit quick, but I hope it helps you understand what price action looks like on a chart. You don't necessarily take every trade that hits a line. Extended moves are nice. In the fifth time, obviously it wasn't necessarily a good trade, but something you need to look at after it's done, what the price will do. So once you see new channels get formed, trade the tops, trade the bottoms. Notice how price comes back into the middle of the channel. That's definitely a tradable area as well for a long or put option, depending where the price is coming from. So I hope this gives you a little bit more chart action. And if you have any questions, comment below. Let me know if anything stands out or anything else you want me to talk about on charts, because maybe once a week or so I can do a chart video which doesn't include a trade, and I can get more detailed about something. It is pretty interesting that we're talking about resistance 3, but again, extended moves are your friend. Obviously if super news comes out and it's so strong, you don't necessarily want to reverse it. But when you're above resistance 3 or below support 3, you kind of want to think about price coming back into that area. Okay? So this is Rich with BinaryOptionTrading.com, and I hope you have a great week. Today is Tuesday, and we'll be back with the trade of the day tomorrow on Wednesday for August 29th. Have a great one, everyone.